We live in an age of incredible comfort. We have endless streams of entertainment, instant food deliveries, and climate-controlled homes. Yet, despite having all our basic needs met, so many of us wake up feeling a hollow ache, a quiet, lingering sense that something crucial is missing from our days. We often approach our time here like a transaction. We put in our hard work, our money, or our good behavior, and we stand there waiting for the machine to drop a shiny sphere of happiness into our hands. But looking up at the sky and asking, "What do I get out of this?" or "What does life owe me?" is looking through the wrong end of the telescope. We are the ones being questioned. Every situation in our lives is a prompt, asking us to provide our own unique answer. To see how that response is possible, we have to look at one of the darkest moments in human history. This is Viktor Frankl. In the 1930s, he was a rising star in Vienna, a psychiatrist with a thriving practice, a new husband, and an author with a manuscript he was eager to publish. Then World War II broke out. Because he was Jewish, the Nazi regime tore Frankl from his home and cast him into a sprawling network of extermination camps. Everything he had built stopped at those iron gates. Inside, the guards systematically dismantled every piece of a person's identity. Prisoners were separated from their families. Their clothes were taken. Their life's work was burned. They were shaved bald, given rags, and reduced to a string of numbers tattooed on their skin. Imagine standing in the freezing mud, starving, with your past erased and your future a complete void. Why keep living? Under the constant threat of violence, the human mind builds a shield. Frankl observed that after a few weeks, prisoners entered a phase of profound apathy. This emotional death numbed them to the camp's horrors. But this numbness was dangerous. The true breaking point came when a prisoner lost all hope for the future. Often it happened suddenly. A man would refuse to get out of the muck, wave away the guards' threats, and simply give up. Once the mind surrendered, the body followed. Yet in that hellish environment, Frankl watched a rare few walk through the huts, comforting the sick and giving away their last pieces of bread. Frankl saw a space between what happens to us and how we react. In that gap lies our power. We always retain the freedom to choose our response. This inner fortress of choice dictated who perished and who endured. Out of this crucible, Frankl developed a new school of psychology called logotherapy. He moved past Sigmund Freud's strict focus on the pursuit of pleasure, arguing instead that humanity's primary drive is the will to meaning. We can survive almost anything, provided we see a purpose in it. Frankl identified 3 distinct paths to find this meaning. The first is through work or achievement. For Frankl, this was his confiscated manuscript. When he fell sick with typhus, he kept his mind sharp, scribbling notes on tiny scraps of paper. He had a task that only he could finish. The second path is experiencing something good, or loving another person. On freezing marches in the snow, Frankl kept his spirit alive through vivid, loving conversations with his wife. Her image became more real to him than the barbed wire. The third path is the most difficult. It is the attitude we take toward unavoidable suffering. When we face a tragedy we cannot change, like an incurable illness, we are challenged to change ourselves. Suffering is empty on its own. We give it meaning by the way we respond. Because we can choose our attitude, life's meaning is unconditional, available up to the very last breath. When the camps were liberated in 1945, the nightmare should have been over. But Frankl emerged to discover that his poignant wife, his parents, and his brother had all been murdered. He was utterly alone. He returned to a Vienna that was unrecognizable. Walking through the bombed-out streets, facing a staggering void, he had every reason to surrender to despair. Instead, he chose to practice what he preached. He refused to hold on to bitterness or revenge. He rebuilt his medical practice and dedicated the rest of his life to healing the psychological wounds of others. He survived the greatest horror of his century, and then he used his freedom of choice to turn a personal tragedy into a triumph for others. Frankl called this tragic optimism. It is the defiant decision to remain hopeful and take responsible action, even when the world around you is falling apart. It is the stubborn resilience of a human spirit that flatly refuses to be broken by its environment. Every challenge we face, every moment of boredom, grief, or struggle, is life asking us a question. It is asking us who we are going to be. Frankl anchored himself to the words of Friedrich Nietzsche. He who has a why to live for can bear almost any how. Forces beyond your control will disrupt your life, but your freedom to choose your response is yours forever. When life asks you for your answer, what is the why that will guide it?